all the things are going on. Going camping this weekend in my backyard for the first time.
You have a big backyard, though, so that could be dangerous.
Yeah, I told Tiff's friends are coming over with their kids, and she's like, I can't camp out because my friend's pregnant. She has to sleep inside. I was like, okay, that makes sense. So my son, I was like, hey, if you're good this week, maybe we can go camping Friday night as a family. And she's like, I can't go. My friend's pregnant. And I'm like, well, I'm talking about going on Friday when they're not here. And she said, no, I can't go because my friend's pregnant, meaning she doesn't want to go camping at all. So I may be camping 2 nights in a row.
Have the two of you ever gone camping?
We've gone to float trips, but her friends that we go with, they have a camper, and so we've stayed in that. I didn't know she was.
So the two of you have never slept in a tent?
No, I didn't realize she was so anti tent camping. But yeah, I was like, nope, not doing it. I'm not sleeping on the hard ground. I'm like, well, I got sleeping bags, and we have a blow up mattress. She's like, nope, not happening.
So the last time I camped in a tent with my wife, I remember we were kind of on a hill, and apparently I tossed and turned a bunch in my sleep and basically almost wrapped the tent up in myself.
I figured, you said, you laid the wrong way.
Between
and you woke
that
up.
And the downhill slope, I basically, I just kind of almost wrapped myself up in the pup tent.
That'd be bad if you laid the wrong way though, all the blood rushes to your head all night.
And it was soaking wet.
Oh, spicy.
From the morning dew.
Oh.
You sickie.
Well, you're camping. What was I supposed to expect? Nature's erotic.
She was clinged up in the little corner. She was all in the little corner, just trying to not freeze to death.
She's holding it back, bracing it Richard, you're rolling in your sleep.
Basically, yeah. Meanwhile, I'm wrapped up in a blanket and most of the tent.
So you were nice and snuggly.
Rolled it like a crocodile.
Well, good thing you didn't roll too far. You could have rolled in the fire.
That's true.
Yeah, and those tents,
I could have.
Those will burn quickly. But, yep, going camping this weekend, so we'll see how that goes. This could be the last episode ever.
That's a good point. You'll probably end up getting, bit by some weird-ass bug.
I know. I'm going to try and spray, bug spray around it.
You're going to
make
contract some, old-timey disease.
Ooh, Richard, that's a pretty good segue because I have had Rocky Mountain spotted fever.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know, Richard, if you've heard of the Rocky Mountain locusts. Yeah, you're going to.
I was just talking to Amanda about this. You ever notice that old-timey diseases have weird names?
Scurvy. Rocky Mountain spotted fever.
Lily Rocky Mountain balls.
Herpes.
Yeah. Yellow polka dotted chest fungus.
Double-eyed frog. Testicular bulge. It's a disease. It's out there.
Meanwhile, you go to the modern day and it's diverticulitis.
Yeah, I know, right?
Scary.
Yeah, if you called it toad wart ball fall off,
if you called it red Appalachian chest death, then
that's a good point. Your ears would perk. That's where they failed. Because they're coronavirus. There's it sounds like a beer.
Yeah, they should have called it wheezy locust death cough.
Yeah. But then they'll go extreme with it, though. Then there'll be something that isn't that bad. And they'll be Rocky Mountain Everest dog death trap. What's it do? It causes a little scratch on your arm. Oh.
Yeah, but 100 years ago, it's I got a little scratch on my arm, and now I've died.
That's a good point. Jack Daniels kicked his safe and busted his toe, and he died of gangrene. The whiskey baron died because of an attitude problem.
We had a president that didn't wear a coat, and fucking 2 days later, dead.
Yeah.
Didn't wear a coat one day.
I actually don't think that's true. I don't think the cold is what makes you sick. As I've heard people say, if you go outside with your hair wet, you'll die. It's no, that's not true. That's not what causes it. I don't believe it. That's not what my mom said. That's why I dry off completely before I go outside, and I don't eat raw cookie dough.
You don't eat raw cookie dough?
No, I do. I eat lots of it.
I knew you did.
It's so yummy.
I was to say, come on.
What Whenever we get cookie dough, like I take like little bits of it, and by the time somebody wants to make cookies, they're like, "Where'd all the fucking cookie dough go?" I'm like, "In my belly."
I don't even know what we're talking about today. What are we talking about today, Shawn? Do I have a thing for you? I do have a thing for you, but is that what we're talking about?
No, we're gonna start with mine. It's the what I said. It's the Rocky Mountain Locusts.
All right. Well, then I guess you did segue good, and then
That's
I
okay.
ruined it.
You took the segue and you did a roundabout. You're like, let's go this way.
Yep.
And I fell off, and I'm just waiting there by the escalator.
Well, that's why we have this time together, Shawn. We work out the kinks.
It's true.
Professional.
All right, let's do this.
Start the show. What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And we're speaking the language of bromance. And today, Shawn is going to tell me about all the things that are going to kill me.
Oh, well, we're talking like a little bit like
I don't live in
old-timey.
Australia, Shawn, so I feel like I don't have that much to worry about.
Well, and you think about, so this article comes from February 3rd, 2003, from High Country News, Richard. So this is an old
that's a
article.
long time ago, all the way back in 2000. That's in the before time.
That was 20 years
back
ago.
in the long ago.
Imagine 20 years ago, like when you like in that time when we thought 20 years ago, that was 1983. We're like, that was a long time ago. They wore weird clothes
Right?
and they had big ass cell phones.
Yeah, like we want what? Where's my flying car?
Yeah, and they get to now and we still don't have flying cars. Shenanigans. But
Yeah,
this
we have
article,
Marvel movies, so
that's true. Yeah, we did get some good movies that are still coming. But this article talks about a summer of 1875, Richard. And what, like you were talking, like we don't have like weird, crazy, like, names for diseases anymore. One of the other things it feels like we don't have to worry about anymore is like plagues across our crops. Like you don't hear about
That's
like farmers talking about like, oh my God, I lost all my corn to Hickenbottom virus bacteria.
Well, do you remember? Okay, maybe I'm old, since I'm older than you, maybe you don't remember this, but do you remember when like we were going to be taken over and basically like ruled by killer bees? The like killer bees were going to come and they were going to, decimate the population and ruin us all.
Yeah, well, I mean, you think about like early 2020, there was tons of stuff. Even then, like they had the bird wasp or whatever they were called, the murder hornets.
Oh, the murder hornets.
What else did we have? We had all kinds of stuff. I forgot all about it because it was like crazy. It was like something every other week. It was like Monster Movie of the Week, except like on the news. You're like, what?
Yeah, except it was the news and everything was designed to kill you. And you're like, and then you realize I don't live in Australia, and so you were fine.
Yeah, but like we found one in Texas. And you're like, oh my God, where in Texas? They're like, very southern Texas. Actually, it was in Argentina.
Texas. Well, yeah, I don't have to worry about that.
Have you ever driven across Texas? It's going to take it forever to get up here. We'll develop some kind of laser that'll take care of it by then.
Yeah.
But no,
laser
like
shield.
You never worry about like our crops, like our technology. We have more yield on crops than we ever had before. Like this might be a good cautionary tale for us because, it's kind of the hubris of man at this point. It's like, well, if we get attacked by crazy viruses that attack our corn or, some kind of weird like infestation of bugs, like we'll be fine because our yield is so large that we don't even care if we lose some acreage because, we've developed this corn from Jurassic World that nothing can destroy.
From Jurassic World.
But Richard, from this article, let me start.
Fuck your bees, we got dinosaur corn.
Picture swirling snow as far as the eye can see in the middle of summer. Like that doesn't make sense. Now imagine this blizzard of flakes transforming into a swarm of locusts, Richard. This isn't just any storm, but the largest congregation of animal life that the human race has ever known in Plattsmouth, Nebraska, in the summer of 1875.
So I would think if I was like old-timey and I saw, a gigantic swarm of bugs, like immediately your mind goes to, well, like it's over.
Yeah. Well, because like now, like farmers, they're making a lot of these crops for like the masses. At this point in time, you're making this food for yourself. Like you're trying to like Jiminy Cricket this, or I guess it'd be the ant in the story, because the ants were all storing food for the winter, and Jiminy Cricket's like, I'm going to play and mess around and do all this stuff. And then like winter comes, he's like, I got no food. And the ants, being the ants, were like, well, come on in. We'll help you this time. He did that next summer, Richard. He probably screwed around again. He didn't learn his lesson. And then on summer 3, after he did that twice, you know what the ants did? They ate him, Richard. They don't tell you that part of the story, but they did.
They stored him for the winter.
They're like, we're going to eat like kings.
That's the lesson, kids.
Yeah, you can screw around 2 summers, but that's
save your pennies, or you'll be cannibalized.
Well, that's not cannibalism. There's different species.
Go to sleep.
So a swarm,
sweet dreams.
A swarm of Rocky Mountain locusts streams overhead for 5 days. Richard,
okay. Oh, I remember the point I was going to make. So let's say, you're old timey, you're a good Christian man working the land or whatever. And all of a sudden you see a plague of locusts. What's the first thought you're thinking? The first thought you're thinking is, holy shit, like this is the end. Like this is the apocalypse. The apocalypse is happening.
Which, to be fair, probably was.
And then you remember, you're like, wait, wasn't there supposed to be a rapture before this happened? And then you come to the conclusion that the rapture probably happened and you missed the boat. And so then you're like, well, nothing matters anymore. And so then you like marry a heathen. You take on like a Native American bride, and then you realize that there wasn't actually an apocalypse, and then there you are with your new Native American wife and your dead
crop
settler wife.
Yeah, because they killed her.
You got to bury.
Yeah, because you thought all was wrong. I don't know. That sounds like a horrific version of Pocahontas. You know what happened that 3rd summer to that John Smith?
The ants ate him.
So, Richard, this swarm of locusts actually created a living eclipse of the sun. The superorganism composed of 10 billion individual locusts devouring as much vegetation as a massive herd of bison. A metabolic wildfire that races across the Great Plains. Before the year is up, a vast region of pioneer agriculture will be disseminated, and U.S. troops will be mobilized to distribute food, blankets, and clothing to devastated farm families.
10 billion insects. What do they say? There's like what, like 2 or 3 spiders for every human being on the earth?
Oh, that's it? I figured it'd be more, because there's like
it probably is more. Actually, I think with ants, I think it's like there's like 10,000 ants for every one person, or 50,000 or something like that. 50,000 ants for every person, man, woman, and child on the globe.
You know what I love? Like, I'm not scared of spiders at all, but my wife is deathly afraid of them. So, like, we have a basement, and when you have a basement, no matter how good your basement is, you're going to get what, Richard? You're going to get spiders. Because it's, underground. There's other bugs that kind of work their way in and out. Wolf spiders especially. We have a ton of wolf spiders. And I'll be sitting down here, and she'll come walking down after I put one outside, and I'll tell her, hey, I found a spider. And she just runs right back upstairs. It's pretty funny. So if we have a fight and I don't feel like dealing with her. And then you're like,
when the spider apocalypse comes, I'm not taking your share.
But if we have a fight, Richard, I'm like, I don't feel like dealing with this. So she comes down. She's like, and another thing. I'm like, I found 2 spiders. She runs back upstairs.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's what happened tonight. She's like, hey, can you not podcast? Because, we need to talk about some stuff. And I was like, spider. So she ran away. Whew.
Whew. Dodge that bullet.
Yeah, that's a lesson, gentlemen and ladies. If your man's scared of spiders, which, I'm going to judge if your man's scared of spiders, but
if your significant other is afraid of bugs, all you have to do is you just keep some in your back pocket, and possibly literally keep some in your back pocket.
Yeah.
And then
pocket spider.
It's like a get out of jail free card.
Mm-hmm.
You just open up your wallet and send out the bugs.
Yeah. Whenever she's like, hey, we got chores to do, I'm like, pocket spider. Bam. No more work.
You should learn how to train them. And then you could just have them around all the time. You just, keep like one or two as a pet. And then when she's like, hey, honey, could you? And then you're like, oh, what's that? Psst, psst, psst. Let's go.
Yeah. And then I give it, and it's double whammy because it takes care of all the other bugs in the area. Because they kill a ton of bugs. Yeah. They're good for you.
Yeah.
But what's your big fear? Like, are you scared of snakes or spiders or anteaters or wasp or locust?
I'm not a big fan of wasps.
I don't think anybody's a fan of them, though. They're really like the devil bug is what they are.
I mean, I just don't like. The only point to them I've seen is that they are food for other things. They
do apparently kill other bugs, so they're kind of like not really an apex predator, but they definitely kind of help. Like
I think whatever bug that they're like, if somebody was like, hey, all the wasps are gone, but there's this little millipede thing that's now left, like, I'll take care of the millipedes.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the ecosystem's a pretty fragile thing.
I'll bear responsibility for whatever it is I'll bear responsibility for whatever population that they're meant to control.
We do a show and you got your cheeks full of millipedes, but I'm not doing my part. I'm like, Richard, you don't have to eat them. No, part of the ecosystem. Oh, I don't feel good.
They're still moving.
I've got millipede, fungi, death syndrome now. So swarms like this, Richard, albeit usually on a smaller scale, are part of the life cycle of locusts around the world. At low population densities, these insects behave like typical grasshoppers, to which they are closely related. But when crowded, these Dr. Jekyll transforms into Mr. Hydes. Chemical cues.
Point of order. When you were a kid and you saw cicadas, did your parents and or whoever was around, did they tell you that was a locust?
Probably.
For the longest time, I'd find those little like cicada shells that they, like hibernate in. You know how like they make those little, they make those little like basically like shed their skin kind of. For the longest time, someone told me there were locusts. And so for the longest time, I thought that's what a locust was, until I watched The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, and then they had actual locusts in the movie, and I was like, is that what a locust looks like? I was like, it looks like a grasshopper, it looks like a cricket.
So I think cicadas still kind of can do some destruction, but I think locusts are the ones that do more. Because it's like grasshoppers, so they eat plants.
Yeah,
it's one of the plagues too.
For the longest time, I was like, whenever I'd hear locust, like I was probably an almost adult. Like I was in my teens when I found out that locusts did not look like cicadas, that they looked more like crickets.
Well, and cicadas, like I actually like the sound of cicadas. And I don't know if you do you remember it was like 2010? Like it was some like big year of the cicada, like this huge because they come out like every 10 years. Like it takes 10 years for them to hatch or whatever. And like in 2010, like there was just this massive loud, like there were so many of them. Like you had to legit drive with your windows up in your car. They were so loud.
I do recall that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. I think on Missouri was worse because when we came across the bridge for my sister's wedding, like Tiffany and I both looked at each other and were like, do you hear that? Like it is significantly quiet over here. That's crazy. Once in a lifetime thing.
But like I don't know if is that like just a Midwest thing where cicadas are locusts? Like we
I don't know.
call cicadas locusts.
It could be like Kleenex. Like they're actually tissues, but we call them Kleenexes. We don't go by the name brand.
Like Post-its?
Yeah, same thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, isn't it weird? Like the things you learn and like so, like chiggers. Like what does a chigger do to you, Richard? Do you know?
They bite your ankles.
Yeah, but a common misconception is that they burrow into your skin. Not true.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They don't burrow in your skin. It's not true. People will tell you that. They say, "Oh yeah, they burrow in your skin."
They just bite, right? They just bite and make your ankles itch.
Their mucus is like I don't know if it's acidic-y or what, but they like inject it into your skin and make it into like a soup, and then they drink the soup. And the bumps and itches is your just body like trying to heal that and kind of like getting like semi-infected almost.
Yeah.
But you talk to an old timer, they'll be like, "Oh no, it burrows into your skin. You got to get like hot oil and pour it over it and suffocate it."
Just go talk to Jimmy No Feet.
Yeah, he had those, and they did that. Bastards got
He's
him
all
though.
better now. I mean, he has no feet.
Yeah, he got
Hence
gangrene from him. But I mean, like you think too, like back in the day, if you got burned like really bad, you know what they put on it?
Cicadas.
Butter. You know why that's bad?
Because then you come out, because then on the other side of it, then you come out moist and delicious.
Yeah,
and then all your friends are like, "Hey, it's looking pretty good." And
yeah,
then when you have
Greg really didn't do a lot of work this summer. Maybe we should do like that grasshopper story and store him. It's been 3 summers.
Yeah, let's cover him in butter and Parmesan first.
No, but the butter is like oily, so it doesn't let that burn like cool down essentially, because it doesn't, like they thought like it would like cool or suffocate the burn. Maybe not suffocate the burn, but it keeps that burn from like airing out, so it's actually worse for you. But back in the day, that's what they did. They'd throw butter on it because it's like, oh, old wives' tale: throw butter on a burn and you'll feel better.
That seems silly.
Yep, don't do it. Well, we learned.
Don't do it.
We used to use leeches because we thought it'd help people.
Well, in some cases, we still use leeches.
Oh, do we?
I think so. In some cases, we also use maggots. We use maggots.
I just feel like that's not like, I don't know. I really feel like chemotherapy is going to be the thing we look at like in 50 years and be like, oh yeah, we did that.
Well, because the thing with maggots is basically like if you have like a gangrenous wound or whatever, you put the maggots on there and they'll actually eat the dead tissue, but they'll leave the live tissue alone.
So the idea is they might be able to save it.
Well, it helps to like kind of sterilize the wound in a way. Because all they'll do is eat the dead stuff.
I don't know. If my finger's gangrene, I probably would just say take the finger. Like, I'm not going to risk the maggots for a day and a half and be like, well, it got worse. We got to take the hand now.
Yeah, you just put the maggots on there and then they just take care of the bad stuff.
Yeah, but
then they leave you with the good stuff.
If it doesn't work and it spreads too quick, then you lose your hand. I don't know, Richard. If a doctor comes up to me and is like, hey, we got to put maggots on your hand, I'm probably going to get a second opinion.
But I think the maggots have to be like not specially bred, but
they got to go through schooling and become Dr. Maggots?
Kind of, yeah. Okay. Like they don't, like sense. They don't just like go out in the trash and like shake a trash can loose and then put everything in a cup and they're like, okay, here we go, dump.
Okay, well, as long as they're going to school, I mean, that I'm okay with that then. They come in with glasses and an overcoat. A really small one, but don't worry, I'm not going to fly off anytime soon. Just a little Dr. Maggot joke.
Anyway, nom.
So what do you like to do on the weekends?
Nom. Diploma hung up on the side of the trash can.
So these what are we talking about? Locusts, not cicadas. So these locusts have chemical cues from their feces, and frequent disturbances of tiny hairs on their hind legs set off the changes. The changelings...
That's like crickets.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, they look just like crickets. It is as if whenever humans found that our neighborhood smelled like sewers and that we were constantly jostled on the way to work, we abruptly changed into throngs of anxious, red-faced neurotics with an inexplicable desire to buy a plane ticket or rent a U-Haul.
Okay.
So basically, like these locusts, whenever they get these smells or different, I think you get like pissed off and they go into like a frenzy, is what it sounds like.
So they turn into like rage locusts?
Yeah, they're like, we're gonna eat everything. Rumspringa!
I would like to rage.
This metamorphosis is probably a survival mechanism. In temperate ecosystems, locust outbreaks when droughts cause their verdant habitats to shrink, forcing the insects into crowd masses and signaling that it's time to escape impending disaster. That makes sense.
Okay.
So basically, like whenever they sense like their food is they just kind of like group together. So like when danger's coming, it's a bad situation, they get together.
See, that seems scary to me. You're like, okay. You ever worry that bugs like will figure out what we always depict them to be in cartoons, where they like turn into like a mass of bugs, and then they like form like the shape of a fist, and they're like punch you in the face?
Yeah, I mean, have you ever walked through the woods when there's been like a huge mass of like mosquitoes?
Yeah,
it's creepy. Yeah, bugs always
like they'll just all of a sudden like collectively figure out, be like, hey, let's turn into a fist and punch this guy right in the nose.
Well, they got to find the dumb ones. Be like, no, we're gonna be the part that pushes. You're gonna be the part that hits. It's like, well, what if we die? Well, that's just part of it. Hive mind.
You ever see like in cartoons where like you have like the ants that turn into like a wave that like crash down on somebody?
That's why we don't let them watch cartoons.
Smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why remotes are set up the way they are, so they can't push the buttons.
They're ant-proof.
But if they figure out how to get in form of a finger, we are screwed.
Yeah.
But Richard, if we pay careful attention, the Rocky Mountain locust has lessons to teach us about abundance and extinction in our tendency as a species to stumble like bulls through nature's china shop. Perhaps most importantly, the locust has troubling implications for contemporary society. This dude is very wordy. And warnings about our future in a fast-changing landscape. So in 1986, this is the guy who's writing, I was hired as an insect ecologist at the University of Wyoming to explore the world of grasshoppers, a mission I've undertaken for the past 17 years. No sane person would devote so much time.
Can I say hats off to the guy that says, I'm going to study grasshoppers, and this is going to be my life's endeavor, is to learn more about grasshoppers, because to me, that sounds like silent death.
Yeah. I don't know do you just go out and watch them? Do you dissect them?
Well, I would think that like you probably like watch some, and then you capture some, and you take some home, and then you do that thing where like you see like the boxes where they have like the one that's all like with the push pins in it.
Yeah. Oh, but
you
what
probably
happens if
do that a little bit?
You'd go through a whole roller coaster of emotions, because at first you'd be like, oh, I don't care, these are fucking grasshoppers. I don't care who you are. After year 10 of studying those, you're going to fall in love with them. He probably has a favorite one.
Doesn't it seem like to you that everybody that's an expert on a given insect and or animal, like to them, that animal and or insect is like the linchpin of the entire animal / human kingdom?
Yeah, that is kind of odd. If it wasn't
for the boll weevil, society would collapse.
Yeah, you don't know, the boll weevil breeding season of 1912. That's what saved the world. You're like, how?
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that the guy's job isn't important. Of course,
it's probably not.
But well, I mean, I'm sure it's important. I'm sure that the Rocky Spotted Mountain Locust, or whatever the fuck it's called, I'm sure that insect plays a very vital role in the ecosystem of the place that it's at. But I don't think it's like that chaos theory, like butterfly flaps its wings in India and then causes a hurricane on the Pacific coast.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've seen that movie. It's an okay movie, but
Yeah, that was a giant moth. It was called Mothra, Shawn. It was a giant moth.
Oh, I was seeing the one with
And
Ashton Kutcher.
Godzilla fought it.
He like went to jail, and some dude's like, "I'm gonna bust your teeth out if you use them." I didn't understand it then, but I do now, and it's scary as hell.
Like I guess what I'm saying is I'm sure that insect is. I'm sure that the insect that man's studying is probably very important to the area he's in. You know, very like vital to the ecosystem, and probably plays a part in, you know, the general well-being of the flora and fauna in a given region, and therefore helping agriculture, which in turn helps humans. But I don't know, it just seems like every single insect is, you know, the one thing that holds the entire world in its hands.
Yeah, I feel like that's human nature, because like doctors kind of have that like God complex, and I wonder if this is kind of like a similar thing where it's like, no, I've discovered the thing that is what keeps humanity going.
Yeah. Like if it wasn't for this humble grasshopper, everything would collapse.
Yeah, and you're like, cool, dude.
Torrents of fire.
But soon after he arrived at the University, Richard, he learned that the accepted explanation for the locust demise, so this locust that we're looking at, Richard, they're no more. They're gone.
Well, I mean, I guess that's one way to say, hey, I guess they aren't as important as I thought they were.
Yeah. Or this article at the end, he's like,
oh, by the way, they're all dead.
Yeah, well, this article, that's why at the end he's like, and that's why we're all fucked. So
it's your fault. You killed him.
So they talk in here like the demise was like, you know, the disappearance of bison, the decline of fire set by Indians, the change in climate had altered the locust prairie habitats, but he was like, no, I got to dig more. There's more to this mystery that I got to Scooby-Doo the shit out of.
It was Farmer Joe. He shot him with a shotgun.
I mean, you have that many coming at you. I don't blame him.
Yeah, but I mean, what's one shotgun blast going to do against 10 billion bugs?
I mean, it cut a decent hole in him. Like, you're going to hit a lot.
It probably formed into a hand and probably pulled the gun out of his hands. Give me that.
The mystery was so intriguing and the existing explanation so full of holes that I was compelled to reopen the case. Besides, man, this guy's like freaking Matlock. Besides, I had a lead on a bounty of clues that had scarcely been touched, digging through old, obscure geological reports. I learned about the existence of grasshopper glaciers.
Wait, what?
Yeah. These are strung.
What is a grasshopper glacier?
Let's find out. They're strung along the spine of the Rockies, man.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I know, right? You're all like, silly bugs. They got fucking glaciers.
They got glaciers. They're probably responsible for the glaciers, and now the glaciers have all melted.
You know what? Oh, that's probably what it is. They're like, fuck you. We're not going to eat grass and corn anymore. We're going to have fucking cocktails.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a grasshopper drink? They're delicious.
They are pretty good.
So curious, I did more research and learned that these glaciers were so named because of their contents. They had entombed wayward grasshopper swarms centuries ago. If the grasshopper courses were actually locusts, they might provide clues as to how these insects disappeared.
Wait, so there were bugs like trapped in the ice? Is this like Jurassic Park?
Oh no, they're
gone. Like, because the mosquitoes are in the amber, this is grasshoppers in the ice.
Sounds like it. Well, I think it's just like a bunch of dead ones kind of like got stuck high up in the mountains. Like they tried to climb the mountain and they couldn't, and they got stuck.
And then got frozen in ice, just like the mosquitoes in Jurassic Park. The grasshoppers have dinosaur DNA in them, don't they, Shawn? That's what's happened.
So they're going to make like Jurassic hoppers.
Or grasshoppers that are like dinosaur sized.
Ooh, like Jurassic World 3.
The locust right there is a grasshopper that's the size of a house.
Could you imagine trying to like what if it was the size of like a dog and you had to fight it? Like you grab it and it would fly you straight up in the air. You got like a Daniel Boone knife and you stab it. That's your end times book right there.
Jurassic grasshoppers.
Imagine like looking out your window and one of those just staring through the window.
Yeah.
Creepy as hell.
Bunch of bugs flying by. and then somebody in your house is like, ba 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 da 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 da. You're like, shut up, not right now.
Well, the thing is, you hear, you're like, oh my God, is there a helicopter? It's just a bunch of these freaking big ass grasshoppers. So at first it looked like the search for clues may be futile. My students and I started at Grasshopper Glacier above Cook City, Montana, which had once been a tourist attraction accessible by horses and later by jeep. The insects in that glacier were badly decomposed as the ice, Richard, had been melting. Yeah, it is ice.
You know what this means? This means that now we can't go to the mountains because the mountains are apparently ruled by giant dinosaur bugs.
Oh, and maybe they're still alive, like they froze, like there's like a fast freeze thing.
Yeah, they're like they're like cavemen. And then
it's like Encino Man.
You know what it is? Encino Man. Yes,
yeah.
It's Encino Man, but bugs.
Yeah, but not as funny because they're gonna come eat all of our food.
Yeah, and then they put a lighter under a plastic action figure of a guy and then put that in its mouth. Just like Encino Man.
Speaking of Brandon Fraser, he's kind of getting a comeback right now.
That's the second time we've mentioned Brandon Fraser in this episode.
What was the first one?
Because I was talking about how I thought cicadas were locusts until I watched the original Mummy.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Brandon Fraser.
Yeah.
And that's when I learned that what locusts actually look like.
Apparently, he got like a standing ovation for his whale movie where he plays, I guess it's like a play, where he plays a guy that's like 600 pounds. He got like a 6-minute standing ovation. Like he like wept.
Wow.
Yeah. He's a guy that I feel like
Good
Hollywood.
for him.
Yeah. Hollywood's kind of been like, fuck you, Brandon. It's like, what do you ever do to you?
Right? I can't think of I would like none of his movies were like Oscar worthy.
The Mummies were really good.
The Mummy movies were good, but the Mummy movies were what they were. They were like, your action kind of like action adventure movies.
Yeah, well, they still have a Mummy ride at Universal. I mean, they're fixing it, but it's still there.
And then there was that one movie he did, Bedazzled.
Ooh, that one's good.
Or Bedeviled.
Bedazzled, yeah. That one's really good.
Is it Yeah.
That's the one that teaches you like a lesson about like, hey, be careful what you wish for. Because every one of his wishes are bad. He's like, I want to be a basketball player. It's like, well, you're dumb as rocks. And he looks and he's got a small pee-pee too. And then he's like, well, I want to be smart, sophisticated, and have a big pee-pee. And then you know what? She made him gay. And he still didn't get his woman. Yep. I love that too because like he gets back to his hotel and like there's a guy there and he's like, oh, you're always doing, I don't remember what his name is. Let's say it's Brad. He's like, you're always doing this, Brad. Like, you just can't accept. And he's like, no, I'm not gay. And he kisses her. He's like, nope, yep, I'm gay. Let's see. Finally, after 4 years of fruitless searching, following up on a tip from a colleague at Western Wyoming Community College, because that's where all the good research is done, Richard. WWCC, double dub, double C. I've said this for years. If you want to get to the bottom, go to WWC, the Fighting Antelope. They know how to get stuff done.
Yeah, you know what it stands for? Winners College.
Yeah.
That's what the WC stands for.
We win. Community College. They said they found the mother lode. So high on Knife Point Glacier in the Wind River Mountains, looming in the distance, a frozen graveyard was emerging through the ice. The tiny bodies had been crushed, but they were intact.
This sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah, we eventually discovered 130 largely intact remains. Each was cataloged, dried for preservation, and individually stored for future study. Based on radiocarbon dating and analysis of the glacier, we surmised that in the early 1600s, around the time the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth, a swarm of Rocky Mountain locusts was blown into the mountains. So they've been around for a bit.
What if there's one that's like, what if there is one that wakes up? Like Captain America. Like the Captain America of locusts.
It starts talking. It's like, I could do this all day, and starts eating some corn.
Yeah.
or wheat, whatever they eat.
They unfreeze him from the glacier ice. And then he talks about how he, was a locust in World War II.
Well, this would have been like, he'd been a locust at like the Revolutionary War. He's that old.
And then he starts talking with a Cockney accent, like, "Oh no, it's a British locust."
He's like, have the colonists settled down yet? You're like, oh, you didn't hear about the tea party. Oh, I love a good tea party. Not this one.
Bloody colonials.
Ooh, but then he'd start saying like very like insensitive things that they said back then that you can't say now.
Yeah.
He'd look at you and be like, you're one of those, I don't know any bad terms for Irishmen, but we shouldn't say any of them. But he'd look at you and say that. And you'd be like, hey.
It'd be something involving potatoes, I'm sure.
Yeah. And he'd look at me and be like, oh, that sounds like a German last name. I don't know what they said about Germans, but I'm sure it wasn't good either.
Something involving cabbage, probably.
Mm-hmm. I'd be like, I love cabbage. And then he'd punch me and it hurt. He's like, you're lucky there's not 100 of us or we'd form a fist. So the study
we'd form a Union Jack flag and slap you with it.
So the study of their corpses, along with careful historical research, allowed us to slowly piece together the story of a remarkable creature. So not so with the let's see. Let's go down here. So I suppose I shouldn't have been surprised that our work on the Rocky Mountain locust was at first met with skepticism. So he came back. He was back at WWWC.
Skepticism, like what? Like people didn't think the bugs existed?
I just think that, like, I don't know, he's probably like, oh my God, no, they did form fists and fight people. And they're like, no, they didn't.
They got drunk and they got in fist fights and they called everybody colonials.
No, look at this little one. And he said something racist and somebody killed it. And he's like, no.
Bunch of racist ass bugs.
Can't deal with this racist Jiminy Cricket.
They're making a new Pinocchio movie. Now I'm going to watch it and I'm going to be like, what if that cricket was racist?
Yep. So many things that could go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Just think
they'd be like, oh, look, it's a boy made out of wood. Better than being brown, am I right? Jiminy!
What? He's from a different time. That doesn't matter. Why'd you set this movie in the 2020s? Tom Hanks,
just saying, some people deserve to live in the whale, like the damn Italian, like that damn Italian puppet maker.
Tom Hanks, like, I'm never going to financially recover from this.
It's like Jonah and the whale. Jonah sounds like a Jewish name to me. Oh, God.
Oh, Jiminy.
Jiminy.
And another thing. Fixed it.
Fairy godmother just beats it with a wand.
Well, I'll show you
a different conscience.
As she's beating, he's like, go back out to the owl kitchen. Jiminy. Along with my students and colleagues, I submitted our work to a scientific journal. The paper described what we found, including the condition of the glacier, the location of the deposits, and types of insect parts we extracted. So going on, at the time of the insect's disappearance, there were no synthetic carbon-based pesticides, no modern earth-moving equipment, not even chainsaws. Settlers fought back with what tools they had, from flooding to fire to dynamite, but this hand-to-hand combat didn't make a dent against any human that was billions strong. So one could only conclude that if humans had wiped out the Rocky Mountain locust, they had done so inadvertently. In other words, the most spectacular success in the history of economic entomology, the only complete elimination of an agricultural pest species was complete accident. So he's really trying to dive into like how these Rocky Mountain locusts were destroyed when there's no pesticides, no modern tools, nothing like that.
Somebody just beat him to death with their bare fists.
So at the time of the insect's disappearance, I already read that. So how could an unwitting cohort of early settlers concentrated in a relatively limited area of the vast Great Plains and Rocky Mountains have wiped out insects that during its outbreaks ranged from Canada to Mexico and from Utah to Iowa? The break in the case came during my teachings in an effort to work some interesting elements into my insect population biology course. I dug into the ecology of monarch butterflies. Much like the locust, the species distributes itself across the face of the continent, and much like the locust, the monarch is poised on the edge of extinction in North America.
So he's saying that how, like, the same way we're kind of accidentally extinguishing the monarch butterfly is the same way that we got rid of the locusts.
That's what it sounded like. So there was the answer staring me in the face. Like the monarch butterfly, the Rocky Mountain locust was tremendously vulnerable at certain times in its life. Between outbreaks, the locusts hid out. Oh man, these are like bandits. They hid out in the river valleys of Wyoming and Montana.
Yeah. They're afraid that the damn colonials are going to show up and start throwing hands.
Yeah.
Or in this case, like stomping feet.
But these river valleys these were the same river valleys that settlers had discovered best suited for farming. By converting these valleys into farms, diverting streams for irrigation, allowing cattle and sheep to graze, and eliminating beavers, like I've always said, Richard, once you eliminate the beaver, it's hard to tell what's going to happen.
It's a toss up after that.
Yeah, these are
once you get rid of the beaver, then everything is on the table.
Yep.
Maybe there's no more bugs. Maybe there's no more people.
Yep.
Maybe there's no more. Maybe there's no more Rocky Mountain, Shawn. Maybe the mountains go.
Yeah,
the mountains could go.
Yeah, they could be damming those up, keeping those rocks from falling in. We don't know. Do we know all those trees are rooted? Maybe the beavers are putting them there.
And then what do you have? You don't have Rocky Mountain, like murder locusts. You just have regular ass locusts that you can easily, crush in your hand.
But he goes on,
or overtake in a Revolutionary War.
Yeah, but he goes on. He says, "Well, I shouldn't have been surprised that our work on Rocky Mountain locust was first met with skepticism. Along with my students' colleagues, I submitted our work to a scientific journal. And they said, listen, locusts can't talk. There's no such thing as a racist Jiminy Cricket. I will not have you disparage the name of Jiminy Cricket." So on behalf of the reviewers, the editor explained that the study did not constitute a controlled experiment. "You have mistaken natural history for science," she wrote.
"When you wish in the sky, all non-white people need to die." Jiminy
Cricket. What? We're all thinking it. No, we're not.
No, nobody's thinking it, Jiminy. Slap.
At the time of the insect's disappearance, there were no... Wait, he just said this again. Why are you saying this again? Oh, I think I went too far up. I got frustrated with racist Jiminy Cricket that I hit my thing.
And then he went and taught the locusts. It's like, listen, they may look like us, but they're colonials, which means you're better than them. We're all better than them.
So, I mean, it's kind of where it ends up.
Like, yeah, we totally are.
So we'll end up on here. So it says, a century ago, human alterations of the environment caused the demise of the Rocky Mountain locust. And today, the ghosts of these insects warn us of an even more serious threat to the natural world. As our current environmental crisis exposes our past act of accidental destruction, one can only wonder, what else can we learn from the Rocky Mountain locust?
So they're using it as basically like, hey, by studying this might help us understand the terrible damage we are impacting on the climate and like what the effects of that are.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's so much climate, just more like, which I guess a little bit, but probably more so like actual, like the impact of it to the creatures. So it doesn't feel like he's saying much like climate change as much as like geographical or geological alterations. So you think like, which it's an interesting thing to think about too. Like we've created like dams.
So saying that we changed the landscape and therefore we changed the landscape with our growth in agriculture, and that impacted those bugs way back when. So it's safe to assume that our agricultural impact on the ecosystem today has an effect on bugs today.
Well, you think about like the dams that we've created, or like how we've altered flows of the rivers. Like it does have to.
As long as we kill that racist Jiminy Cricket, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, well, that's what I want to see from Tom Hanks. Like, he needs to stand up for what's right. He's like, I know I want to make a real boy.
I don't want to see him kill the bug like right off the bat. I want to see like a little fight. I want to see Tom Hanks, like just one good sock in the nose.
Yeah. Yeah. Like he's tried, like that's all movies. He tries really hard to like get him to come around and like see the errors of his ways. But Jiminy Cricket's like, nope.
Yep. I'm not going to listen to some Italian puppet maker. And then Tom Hanks just punches him right in the mush. It's like you ever watch those videos of members like KKK protests where like they try to like, talk to people about how like reasonable their position is. And then somebody just like punches them right in the face. And then you're like, that looks nice.
There's a video. It was like, it might've been like the 70s or 80s in Germany. And like this old lady that looks like Belushi in like a drag, like goes up with her purse and starts beating the crap out of a skinhead. It's like
I love it.
It's a classic picture. But no, with that, he tries to get him to change the air of his ways, and the whole like twist of this movie is he pulls out a spray can and kills him with it, and then you're like, oh, this takes place now times, okay. And the moral of the story is like, yeah, there's even racists now, and we need to. And
then you're like, why is if this takes place in the modern day, then why is Geppetto wear that fucking old timey bedclothes outfit with the cap and walking around with the candle?
Oh, and there's like a whole post credit scene where he talks about like it's because it's comfortable,
Yeah, like it's 2021, Geppetto. Like, carry a flashlight.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too. Like you think about those outfits, like there's a lot of cloth there. It's like, come on, guys. Like you got to be resourceful. Like I get it now. I mean, we've got so much like material flowing out of our butts that we throw it away. We throw away a lot of clothes nowadays. I don't know if you've heard about this, Richard.
We do.
There's this new thing. I mean, I know this isn't really tied to this, but it kind of is. Apparently there's some like site you can buy like clothes and kids wear it for like 1 or 2 times max and then throw it away. It's like super cheap kind of clothing too, so it doesn't last very long, but that's like the new thing. You can't wear clothes more than once.
That seems so silly.
Yeah, at this
Shawn,
age.
I have shirts. I think I still have like shirts from when I was like in my early 20s.
I've got some, like I had like a good run of sweatpants like 10 years ago. Like just, I got them at like, like what do you call, not secondhand shops, but like outlet malls, like super cheap, and they're starting to wear down, and I'm getting sad about it. It's like, tough times.
I think the shirt I'm wearing now is like 2000, is like 8, 9, 10 years old.
I got this one when Tiff and I started dating, so this is 10 years old. Still fits. That's the main thing. I haven't outgrown it. Which means at my age, it means I got fat and had to throw it away.
That's at any that happened. Yeah, that's at any age.
Yeah, got to hold on. You're like, I still look good in this. It's like you look like a Pillsbury dough can about to pop.
Stop it!
Oh, I'm so sad. I'm gonna eat more bread. But Richard, learned a lot today, so I want to know what you have. Richard's closing thoughts.
We learned about racist crickets. We learned about Brendan Fraser. We learned about, basically we learned about everything except anything substantive about Rocky Mountain locusts. So good day. It was a good day.
Yeah, I think so. All right, let me do a little bit of housekeeping before the locusts come back from the glacier and devour my home. Visit our website, we're languageofbromance.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at languageofbro. Email us at bros@languageofbromance.com. And as always, we'd like to thank our 2 patrons, Wendy and Aaron.
May your houses never be plagued by locusts and or racist crickets.
Yeah. They come with a pamphlet. Just say no. Actually, just swat them.
Mhm.
If you have bug spray, hairspray will work. Newspaper, magazine. I mean, they're just crickets. They don't, yeah. One swat,
Anything
they're
from
gone.
arachnophobia. John Goodman, he could
He's
do
good
it.
at it. But, all right. Well, is there anything else if I close her out?
Nope, I'm good, sir.
All right. Well, that's all the Bromance have for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And remember, don't be a why. Be a why not. I just could imagine like 5 days of no sun because of bugs.
God, I would, yeah, there's every part of me would be like, well, this is it. This is the end times. And then I just walk around naked because, you know, like there's no rules anymore.
Sorry, Amanda. I got to find my new wife.